Praise the Lord.
Praise the Lord.
Sisters and brothers, the expression praise the Lord is an expression of power, it's an expression of commitment, and it's an expression of faith. So when we charismatics say praise the Lord, we have to say it with great meaning and conviction. It should never be something casual, but it should come from deep within, with our focus, our attention on the Lord. Praise the Lord!
Praise the Lord.
Did you say it from your heart, from within, with all the conviction? Did you say it like that?
Yes.
Okay, with all our focus on the Lord, because it is a powerful prayer. Praise the Lord is a prayer. So let us say it with meaning, let us say it with all conviction. Praise the Lord!
Praise the Lord.
Hallelujah!
Hallelujah.
Thank you, Jesus!
Thank you, Jesus.
Praise the Lord!
Praise the Lord.
Sisters and brothers, there is none like the Lord. You sang a beautiful song, and you sang it so well, and the musicians did a marvelous job, and I really believe there is none like our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Praise the Lord.
Praise the Lord.
John chapter 3, verse 16. All of us know John 3:16. For God loved the world. John 3:16. For God loved the world. For God loved the world. Yeah, I'm saying it wrong. For God so loved the world that He gave His only Son, so that whoever believes in Him may not perish but have eternal life. I have referred to many translations on this particular verse, John 3:16, and all the translations either say, for God so loved the world, for God so loved the world, or they translate it by saying, for God loved the world so much. If I say God loves the world, that is a half-truth. And the full truth is that God loves the world so much or very much. Now in the beginning, in Genesis, if you refer chapter 1, verses 1 and 2, God created the heavens and the earth, and how in the beginning the earth was a formless void, and darkness covered the face of the deep, while the wind of God swept over the face of the waters, and then God began creating. Are you familiar with the creation story?
Yes.
I think someone should come in the first few. So far away. So on the first day, what did God create? He made the light. On the second day, He made the skies. On the third day, He made the earth and the seas. And on the fourth day, He made day and night. On the fifth day, He made the various creatures And on the sixth day, what did God create? What about women? Yes, on the sixth day, God created humankind. The generic word used is man, but we refer to God created humankind. And what did God say on the sixth day after He had created man and woman? He looked around the whole creation, and He must have looked around the man and the woman, and the Bible tells us God saw that it was good. Very good. What are you saying?
Very good.
Yes! God saw entire creation. And I think man and woman were His sublime creation. And God looked at all that, and He must have really looked at man and woman and said, it is very good. And God created all these things. God created all these things and He gave it to man. God gave man dominion over His entire creation because He so loved humankind. Now look at the mountains. Look at the various creation of God. And you all are in this coastal area. And I have been here 36 years ago, and of course, thank you. I've been in Versova after 36 years ago, and I've seen the whole landscape of this particular place has changed. I was here in 7 bungalows for 1 year. I was doing a course in scriptures under Father Rufus at 7 bungalows. I remember coming here to meet the parish priest from the Versova, Our Lady of Health, to give a message from Father Rufus. At that time, the whole area was a vast, green, beautiful land. But if you look around, everything that God has created is truly beautiful. Everything that God has done, I believe, is a miracle. Because all that He has created is so unique, and there is none like what God has made. Even you and me are miracles of God. And sometimes we fail to appreciate how good, how beautiful each one of us is. And I want to tell you, my dear brothers and sisters, this morning, you are a miracle of God. Your spouse, your children, your neighbor, we are all miracles of God. And we are God's miracles because God has created us. And God doesn't make trash. God makes something beautiful. God makes everything so unique. So look at the one to your right and to your left and tell your brother, tell your sister, you are a miracle of God. And then you go home. When you go home tonight, and the first opportunity you get, look at yourself in the mirror. Look at yourself and say, I am a miracle of God. Because God has created you and me in His own image and likeness. And that's why St. Augustine would say that people travel to wander at the height of the mountains, the waves of the seas, at the long course of the rivers, at the vast compass of the ocean, at the motion of the stars, and yet they pass by themselves without wondering. We are wonders of God, my dear brothers and sisters. We are miracles of God, and there is no one like us. Amen. Praise the Lord.
Praise the Lord.
Praise the Lord.
Praise the Lord.
Jeremiah 1:5. God says, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you, and before you were born, I consecrated you. Now in Psalm 139, there's a unique verse there, Psalm 139 verse 14. It says, I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Like the psalmist, we must say, Lord, I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. What does it mean? That in us, in me, there are billions of cells, and so complicated and intricate is my whole being because God has created me so wonderfully. On my laptop, till last year, I had this picture with God saying, you are beautiful, I know, because I made you. Unfortunately, the slides are coming a little
Right.
You want the light?
Yes.
All right. But I hope you can read behind. Can you read behind? You are beautiful, God says, because I have made you. You know, in my village there is a young man. He's tall, he's hefty, he's dark, and he really looks terrible. I'm sorry to say that, but he really looks terrible. But I deal with him on a very compassionate grounds because people make fun of him. And people call him not by his name. He is known in the village as Gorilla. You know what's a gorilla?
Yes.
And he really looks like a gorilla. But I talk to him as a brother. I believe that God has created him and he is wonderfully and fearfully made by God. So one day I asked him, don't you feel bad when people call you gorilla? He said, I don't care because I know God has created me and that my God loves me. How wonderful to hear it from a person who is so mocked and made fun of. Now if you see each page in the Holy Bible, you can open at random any page in the Holy Scriptures and you will find any of these expressions. God saying, I love you. I am with you. You are precious to me. I delight in you. You are my own son and daughter. Fear not. I will never abandon you. I will not forsake you. I have come to give you life, and life in all its abundance. The Bible is packed with such endearing words from the Lord. Now let us take some of these passages. Now Jeremiah 31 verse 33. God says, I will be their God and they shall be my people. Song of Songs chapter 2 verse 16 says, my beloved is mine and I am his. Whose are you? To whom do you belong? You belong to God. You are a son of God and you are a daughter of God. Very often people throw their connections. I'm connected to the chief minister. I know that the president of India. I know so and so. And there is no better connection that we can have than to say that we are related to God the Father. There is this conversation between two young boys. One is asking the other, "Are you related to anyone famous?" And he says, "I don't want to brag, but I heard Dad calling God his Father." God is our Father. Deuteronomy 32 verse 10. Deuteronomy talks about Moses, and Moses says how God sustained him in a desert land, in a howling wilderness waste. God shielded him, cared for him, guarded him as the apple of his eye. Now this is a figurative expression for something very valuable and precious. Then Isaiah 49 verses 15 and 16. Can a woman forget her nursing child, or show no compassion for the child of her womb? Even these may forget, but God says, I will never forget you. I have inscribed you on the palms of my hands. So what happens when God looks at his palms? What happens when God looks at his palms? What does he see? He sees you, and you, and you, and he sees me also. Because he has inscribed us, graven us, carved us on the palms of his hands. Now Jeremiah 31 verse 3. God again saying to us, I have loved you with an everlasting love. Therefore, I have continued my faithfulness to you. Psalm 91 verse 4. Psalm 91 verse 4. It's a very interesting psalm, interesting verse here. The psalmist says, He will cover you with His feathers, and under His wings you will find refuge. His faithfulness is a shield. He will cover you under His wings, and His faithfulness is a shield. I remember reading a story in the National Geographic magazine many years ago. There was this forest fire in the US, and it was devastating. And after the fires had, in a way, come to an end, the forest rangers went up to the forest to see and to assess the damage. And as they went up, they saw one bird perched on the ground, charred to death, all ash, but it was perched on the ground, and it was an eerie sight. And one of the forest rangers took a stick and just flung that, in a way, charred body of that bird. And to their surprise, they realized that there were 5-6 little baby birds alive. So the mother bird, knowing that the fires would reach the nest up there, brought her little ones down and covered her little ones with her wings. And her mother gave her life to save the young ones. And this is exactly what it means when we say that God will cover you with His feathers, and under His wings you will find refuge. Psalm 36 verse 7 also tells us, how priceless is your unfailing love, O God. People take refuge in the shadow of your wings. Praise the Lord.
Praise the Lord.
God has expressed His love not only in words, my dear brothers and sisters, but His love is translated into actions. Because God has continually sent His messengers to the people, asking the people to return to Him. We have examples of Noah, Abraham, the kings, the prophets, and since the people would hear none of the messengers of God, God the Father finally sent His own beloved Son, Jesus. And that's exactly what we did by reading in the beginning. That God loved each one of us. God was interested that we be saved. And that's the reason why God sent His only begotten Son. So that whoever believes in Him may not perish but have eternal life. Has God stopped loving us?
No.
He never will, because He has said His love is everlasting, and God has made a covenant with us. Now let us see the various attributes of God's love. The first one is that God's love is everlasting. We have seen that in Jeremiah 31 verse 3. God saying, I have loved you with a love that is everlasting. The second is, it is sacrificial. I'm sorry, it's not coming out clearly here because I use one laptop and this is another model and there's a change in the colors. Everlasting, then sacrificial. Romans 5 verse 8 tells us, God proves His love for us that while we were still sinners, God sent Christ to die for us. Then again in John 15 verse 13, no one has greater love than this, than to lay down one's life for one's friends. The next attribute of God's love is that it is steadfast and unconditional. Lamentations 3:22-24. The steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. The next attribute is God's love is compassionate. We know that how Jesus was filled with compassion while feeding the 5,000. The next attribute is God's love is redeeming. Do not fear. We can see that in Isaiah 43 verse 5. Do not fear, for I have redeemed you. Then we also know that God never slumbers. That's a nice one. Psalm 121 verses 3 and 4. He will not let your foot be moved. He who keeps you will not slumber. He who keeps Israel will neither slumber nor sleep. The next one is, did not spare His only Son. We have seen that. Another one is, God's love is a personal love. He loves each one of us personally. Now in Exodus 33 verse 17, God tells Moses, I will do the very things that you have asked for you have found favor in my sight, and I know you, says God. God telling Moses, and I know you by name. In 1 Peter 5:7, cast all your anxieties on Him, because He cares for you. Another translation says that you can throw the whole weight of your anxieties upon Him because you are His personal concern. Oh, wonderful how God loves us in such a personal way that we know that God's love is eternal and the love of God is a love that is covenanted. And I will explain to you a little later what it means to have a covenanted love. You know, God touched my life when I was 20 years old. And for the last 43 years, I have been involved in the charismatic renewal because my whole life took a great turn. at the age of 20. And for the last 43 years, I have only spent trying to proclaim God's word. Now you know my age. How old am I?
60.
Very bad maths. 20 plus 43 is equal to? How much is 83? 20 plus 43 is equal to 43. Because the first 20 years of my life, I was wandering aimlessly. I had no purpose, I had no fulfillment. The last 43 years, I began living. So I was dead for the first 20 years, and I became alive when I met the Lord when I was 20. So I am young, only 43 years old. God touched my life in such a way that I have never looked back. And I want you, sisters and brothers, to experience that deep touch from the Lord, because that has transformed my life totally. You are not too dirty for God to cleanse. You are not too broken for God to fix. You are not too far for God to reach. You are not too guilty for God to forgive. And you are not too worthless for God to love. Sisters and brothers, God is love. He only loves. That's the nature of God. And first letter of John, chapter 4, verse 16, John says that God is love. Now John is using a dynamic word. John's not saying God has love. John is using a dynamic word and not a static word. If I say I am a man, you know my nature. Likewise, we know the nature of God, and His nature is to love. God only loves. G-O-D.
God.
L-O-V-E. G-O-D is God. L-O-V-E is God. That's the nature of God. God only loves. But unfortunately, sisters and brothers, man has rejected the love of God. Man chose to stray away, and that has caused so much of pain, suffering, and so much evil, injustice has entered into the world. Suffering and pain was never part of God's perfect plan for us. We have strayed away, and now God has to right straight in the crooked lines of our lives. Why we fail to understand the love of God? Some of us have a wrong notion of God, that God is waiting only to punish us, that God is wanting only to chastise us. Wrong notion of God. And I want you to be convinced that God is love, and that is His nature. Another reason why we fail to understand the love of God is we equate God with the earthly father. If the earthly father is violent, harsh, then we think God the Father is also violent and harsh. Very often we don't understand the love of God because of the sufferings and pain. If there is a loving God, how can there be so much of suffering and pain? I will touch very briefly on that. Then the fourth one is deception of the world and Satan. We have the example of how Satan lied to Eve. Then we have seen this one, how knowing an earthly father, sometimes you don't have an earthly father. And this is happening in the world more and more. Single parents, children are growing without knowing the father, or sometimes even the mother. Love for the things of the world. If you love the world, you will never experience God's love. Our God is a God who is always loving us. He never takes his eyes off us. He's constantly looking at you and you and all of us. God will never go on strike. Do you know that God could have gone on strike? Many years ago I read this beautiful poem. If God went on strike, I'm sorry, I don't know, my slides have gone very faint here. If God went on strike, it's just a good thing God above has never gone on strike because he wasn't treated fair or things he didn't like. If he had ever once sat down and said, that's it, I'm through. I have enough of those on earth, so this is what I will do. I will give orders to the sun, cut off your heat supply, and to the moon, give no more light, and run the oceans dry. Then just to make it tough and put the pressure on, turn off the air and the oxygen till every breath is gone. Do you know? He would have been justified if fairness were the game. For no one has been more abused or treated with disdain, and yet he carries on, supplying you and me with all the favors of his grace, and everything for free. This is the love God has for us. So God's love is also, we saw that, is faithful and unconditional. When we talk about God's faithful love and unconditional love, what comes to your mind? Which parable comes to your mind? Very good. The parable of the prodigal son immediately comes to our mind because in that parable we understand the depths of God's love. Now when the son had gone away, the father, the parable tells us, doesn't go back and lie down and say, that son of mine, good for nothing, I will kick him out if he comes home, I will teach him a lesson. But no, father waits and looks, constantly looking around the horizon to see whether his son is returning home. And finally, when the son returns home, when the son does come back, his own life and fortunes in shambles, the father runs down the road to embrace his son. Now the son did not have to win the father's love. He had never lost the father's love. He only had to return home and accept the father's love. Sisters and brothers, we too, we only have to return to God and to accept the love of God. His arms are always outstretched. He's waiting to embrace us and to shower us, to bathe us with his unconditional and faithful love. There's another story I read, and I think it is part of the song that Tony Orlando and Frank Sinatra sing. This is a story about a father and son. Just like the prodigal son, but here it was only a father and his son. And they have a fight, and the son just leaves the house and goes far away. He doesn't want to do anything with the father. But soon he has a lot of problems, a lot of difficulties. His life is in ruins, and then he remembers the father. And he writes a note to the father and sends it with his friend. Father, I want to return home. And if you want me to come home on a particular day, tie an aloe ribbon on that oak tree in front of the garden. And when the son finally comes by bus on that road, when he reaches the house, he just puts his head down and says, "Oh no, I don't know, there will never be an aloe ribbon there." But then his friend says, "Hey, look, look, look! Not only the oak tree, but the entire garden was filled with yellow ribbons. We need to return home." And when we decide to come home, a red carpet treatment awaits us. God will shower us with His love, His unconditional love. Once when my own son, he was 5 years old, and I taken him for a practice, some rehearsals of the school concert. And then I got the news that, after the rehearsals were over, that he was missing from that theatre. I got a call in my office saying that my son was lost, he could not be taken home. I quickly went to the place where they were having the rehearsals, and I was angry with my son. And I knew that he was a little mischievous, and I said, when I meet him, I'm going to spank him. But when I went there and I was searching for him, but finally when I found him, I had nothing else to say but just give him a tight hug. Just the way the Father does it to the prodigal son, and this is much more God the Father does to each one of us. Lord, I'm coming home. We sing a beautiful song. I wandered far away from God. Now I'm coming home. And what happens when we come home? Open are His arms of love. Sisters and brothers, God accepts us as we are. No questions asked, no condemnation. He only wants us to come to Him, and He will change us from one level of maturity to the next. Pope Francis, in that beautiful book, the name of God, His mercy says, I don't know whether you can read that, there is no sin, there is no habit of sin, there is no relapse into sin that is beyond the mercy of God. God keeps no record of our wrongs. He only wants us to come and commit our lives to Him and to make Him the Lord and Master of our lives. In John 8, the woman caught in adultery, He says, I do not condemn you, go your way, but sin no more. Many years ago, I remember when I was making one of my initial retreats, we were asked to make a list of various sins and to make a good confession. So we were sent to the Blessed Sacrament Chapel, and I could not remember any sins. But then, when I looked at the Lord present in the Blessed Sacrament, I began to list out various sins, and I wrote it down on my paper. And I got 23 various sins, some quite terrible. And with my list in hand, I was going to the priest. And the priest was sitting on the second floor of that retreat house. So when my turn came, I gave my list of sins to the priest. He didn't look into the sins. He just took the paper, crumpled the paper, and flung it out the window. I said, Father, if somebody finds that paper, they will recognize my handwriting. Father said to me, Savio, don't worry. Your list has been wiped clean. God has forgiven you. That's when I once again experienced what God's love means to us. It is much more than what we can actually understand. Now, one of the things that normally people ask me, how do you reconcile God's love with the sufferings that are existing in the world? Suffering is a mystery. God the Son himself suffered and went through so much of pain. But I also know suffering is a gift. And there are so many things I don't understand. And how to reconcile suffering and understand suffering fully, I must confess, I am finite, God is infinite. And when I reach heaven, I'm going to ask him everything, and then I will send you all the answers. But God has a plan for suffering, because he himself suffered. But I want to tell you at this stage, suffering was never part of God's perfect plan. Take for example, Adam and Eve. God gave paradise to Adam and Eve. Then what happened? Did God take away paradise from them? Did God throw them away? Did God banish them from paradise? What happened? It was Eve, Adam and Eve who sinned. They brought upon themselves pain and suffering. The story of the prodigal son. Then the son said to the father, Father, give my share of the property. And he went to a distant land. And then the son had so much of pain, so much of suffering. Was it the fault of the father? No, it was the fault of the son. And sisters and brothers, we do wrong things. And all this pain and suffering, we bring it upon ourselves. And now God has to ride straight in the crooked lines of our lives. And Romans 8:28 tells us that he will work everything for our good. And we only need to trust and to wait on him. I want to ask you one question. A black buffalo that eats green grass gives white milk. How's that? Do you understand how? Black buffalo, green grass, white milk. If you mix black with green, you're supposed to get black. Now do you understand, when you look at the crucifix, how God, or why God the Son went through all that? I don't understand. I'm just wrong. I'm speechless. I'm dumbfounded. Why Jesus went through all that? Suffering is also part of God's plan to redeem the world now. God uses suffering, uses the pain for our own salvation. God had not promised skies always blue, that beautiful hymn we have here. Flowers strewn pathways all our lives through. God had not promised sun without rain, joy without sorrow, peace without pain. But God had promised strength for the day, rest for the labor, light for the way, grace for the trials, help from above, unfailing sympathy, and undying love. We need to remember, sisters and brothers, that we follow a crucified Christ. And keep in mind what Paul says in Romans 8:18. I think, said Paul, whatever we suffer in this life can never be compared to the glory as yet unrevealed, which is waiting for us. A couple of years ago, I myself had a vision. I saw God taking me to a beautiful garden. It cannot be explained how beautiful the whole garden was, with innumerable flowers and roses, and the whole fragrance and aroma was breathtaking. And as I walked through that garden, I realized very soon that I was getting all the pokes on the various plants. There were thorns. And then I said, Lord, why all this? All the beautiful flowers, the beautiful, I began to look back. And God said to me, don't look back. Keep your eyes in front. And right there on the horizon, I saw a dazzling light. And that was the message God gave me. That is eternity. Sisters and brothers, no matter what you go through, keep your eyes on the horizon. Keep your eyes at eternity. God is there for us. Now God's love is covenanted. I want you to understand this perfectly well. God did not make a contract with us. God made a covenant with us. Now what is a covenant? A covenant is a promise of unconditional love. It's a promise that is never cancelled. It is a love that goes 100% of the way at all times. It is always a free gift. It is never withdrawn. It is forever. God has made a covenant with us. And this covenant, God promises that He will honor it all the days of our lives, 24/7 till our last breath. And Luke says in the account of the Last Supper that we are children of the new covenant, sealed by the blood of Jesus. Sisters and brothers, we are soon going to enter the Lenten season. And the Lent is another chance for us to understand how deep, how unfathomable is God's love. We know He gave His blood for us. We know that He died on the cross to save us. We know that He was abused and reviled, and finally cruelly killed. And all this is because He L-O-V-E, all of us. Because God loves us, because God is faithful to His word. There's a story about a young soldier who was condemned to death. This took place somewhere in the UK many years ago. This young soldier was condemned to death, and he was going to be hanged at a public place one early morning. So it was announced that he would be shot dead at the ringing of the bell. There was a bell in the church there. They would ring the bell, and the people could assemble to come and to witness at the shooting of this young soldier. So at the appointed time, the people had gathered already. The young soldier was brought, and they were ready to shoot him. And they said, "Let the bell ring." You know, the bell has got a clapper. Dong, dong. No, that's a clapper. A big thing there. So when they went to ring the bell, no sound came. The fellow pulled the rope, the chain, no sound. Everybody looked up, what happened? And then they saw somebody clinging to the clapper of the bell, clinging to the gong, so that the gong would not ring. But each time they pulled the bell, that clapper would go against the bell, and that person was getting badly damaged. So when they went up, they saw that person clinging the bell was the girlfriend of that young soldier. She did not want him to die. She was ready to sacrifice her life, and she clung to the clapper of the bell. And each time the clapper was pulled against the bell, she was being totally smashed, and she was losing blood. And when the chief saw that the young woman was the girlfriend of this young soldier, he pardoned the young soldier because he said, "Your girlfriend was ready to sacrifice her life to save you." Sisters and brothers, Jesus gave His blood for you and for me. Jesus died for us only because He loved us. He gave His life and took that path to Calvary to demonstrate how much He loves us. When you look at the crucifix, the unsaid words of Jesus are, I died for you because I love you. And if you look prayerfully, meditating on the crucifix, his words are always there. I did this because I want to tell you my love for you will never end. So sisters and brothers, remember God saying to all of us that we are created in His own image and likeness, that we are beautiful, that we are the apple of His eye, that He will never forget us, that His love is everlasting and He will love us forever. God is love and He will love us till the very end. Let's rise and pray. Please stand. Pray silently, asking God to fill you once again with a fresh measure of His love, that we may understand the length and the breadth and the depth of His love. We can perhaps take an appropriate hymn as the conclusion to this first talk on God's love, and let the Spirit lead you as the sessions go on. Can we take this one?
How great is our God. Do we need the lyrics for that? We know the song by heart. We'll try and get that on the projector for you. Mary, over to you. Can you all stand? The coffee has refreshed us enough. We all know this wonderful song that we love to sing over and over again. Thank you, Lord. And we mean every word that we sing, blessing Him and His holy name. Amen? Amen. Thank you, Jesus. Once again, thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. I just wanna thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. I just wanna thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Amen. Yes, thank you, Lord. Everybody be seated. Our next speaker for the day is Brother Mervyn Lewis. I'd like just to give you a brief on Brother Mervyn Lewis. He's been in the renewal since 40 plus years. I believe he was there from the time of Father Rufus, maybe even before that. He is from Mount Carmel's Church, Mumbai, and he's currently a National Service Team member. And not so much, the man speaks for himself.